So, over the past couple days, I got serious about upgrading my build. This meant going out of my way to make currency and pushing into higher maps, culminating in tier 15s. And overall, it's been a great success. At this point, I've done so many upgrades that I don't 100% know the exact value of my gear, but I do know that I have over 300 exalts just sitting in my stash, and I've probably spent at least 200 on the items I'm wearing. So I feel pretty confident in saying I've made 500 exalts, and in this video, I'm going to tell you how I did it. Just as one note, this is much more about learn from what I'm doing and apply it to your own character rather than just, hey, copy these 3 steps and you'll have 500 exalts. Because I'm going to be blunt, you probably won't. Prices are changing all the time, the economy's a live thing, and you really can't just copy exactly what someone else is doing, especially since there's a factor of luck, especially with what I did. And so, speaking of, were there any big lucky drops that I had? Yes, there was one big lucky drop. I got an audience with the king and sold it for 134 exalted orbs. This is gained from doing the ritual mechanic. Now, I'd already been doing ritual. I think it's pretty awesome, and it has generally consistent rewards. Almost every other time I have at least 1 exalt at the end. But it's pretty rippy. One of the reasons I like it is I'm playing a fireball build, and when those walls go up enclosing the area, that's more walls for my fireballs to bounce off of exploding for massive damage. So it synergizes really well with my build. On the other hand, if your build does not do well in enclosed spaces, you might want to farm a different mechanic. Maybe Breach if you're really good at clearing large open areas and tend to prefer open maps. I think long term, the play is probably going to be to add all the mechanics to all the maps. So instead of just doing ritual, you're doing ritual and breach and expedition and maybe even delirium, although I have to say the gray fog makes me really sad. But in the short term, especially if your build can't handle all the mechanics, just going for one that your build can handle is totally fine. For me personally, I've been kind of avoiding delirium just because with all the gray fog, I keep dying. But I am going out of my way to target both expedition and ritual as much as possible, and breach is okay, but since I tend to prefer indoor maps with closed layouts, it's not ideal for me either. I suspect as my build gets stronger, I'll be able to do more and more things without having to think about it. By the way, if you want to see what I'm doing on this build, do be sure to get subscribed and ring that notification bell because a build video should be going up tomorrow or maybe even later tonight. And next up, I've made a decent bit of money by selling junk. The way this works is you don't have to worry about if the item's actually that good, but anytime you pick something up you go, oh, that might be interesting, maybe someone wants a chest with a bunch of evasion and a bunch of life. You just toss it in a price tab. When the tab fills up, you go to the next one. You go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So when this 15 exalted tab is completely full, what I'm going to do is lower the price on all the other tabs, so 15 becomes 10, 10 becomes 7, 7 becomes 5, 5 becomes 3. And then I'm going to vendor everything in the 3, set it to 15, and do the whole thing again. This is a great way to get rid of unneeded or unwanted items that you don't think are super valuable. And as you'll notice, things are most likely to sell in your first couple tabs. There is always some trickle down. Occasionally, here and there, something will sell from the lower tabs, but I've made most of my sales at the 10 and 15 exalt mark, with a few more that were in my 1 exalt tab, and I recently cleaned that out, so I don't have it as an example anymore. You don't do this expecting all or even most of the items to sell. You do this because it's very easy. You don't have to think about it or price items, and it just goes. With that said, if you think something is more valuable, you go, oh, people actually want this, then it should go in a dedicated price tab where you actually price check it. Those dedicated price tabs is where I've been putting all of the crafted items that I've been selling. If you're wondering why are my ring slots empty, I'm redoing my gear. I'm working on it. Don't worry, that's what the build videos later rather than right now. And so this is where the next part comes in, directly searching for upgrades. Now, there are a couple ways to go about this. So let's just say that I wanted to search for an upgrade for my boots. They have 340 ES, but maybe I wanted 30% movement speed instead of just the 25. Well, one way to do that would be to just put in the stats that I want, like 340 ES and 30% movement speed. This is probably going to be pricey. Or it doesn't exist at all because they're really good boots. Are there any with even 300? There's one pair for 140x. So I could buy these boots for 140x. Or I could make a search for something that is not in its current form an upgrade, but could be with some adjustment. And that is what I did here. So I'm looking for boots with 30% movement speed that have either 80% increased energy shield or 48 to maximum. You'll notice that on these boots, it's 48 to 60 and 80 to 91. I'm at the very top end of both rolls, but that guarantees that at least one of the ES mods on my new pair of boots is going to match my old pair of boots. I'm not worried about the suffixes because I don't have anything that I can't get elsewhere. If I don't have int here, I can swap attributes around on a different item or maybe purchase it on a ring. That's why these slots are empty. If I don't have a stun threshold, well, actually at this point I probably just don't need it because I have so much ES. And then I'm saying no maximum life, no maximum mana, no accuracy rating, because I want something with an open prefix. Example, right here. Prefix cheetahs, 30% move speed. Prefix indomitable, 80 to 91% increased energy shield. That's got some neat suffixes. So this would be the perfect thing where I message someone and I try to buy the item. Also here, 48 to 60, 30% movement speed, suffixes. I can buy this one. 86% energy shield, suffixes. I can buy this one. But there are some that you either can't or don't want to buy. This one, for example, the prefixes are already full. It has increased energy shield, flat energy shield, movement speed. This is never going to get to like 300 ES. I guess you could Chaos Orb spam it, but I haven't had very much luck with that. Similarly, this one, at first glance, looks pretty good. It has all sorts of suffixes, and then the prefixes, wait a minute, one of these is a hybrid mod. So in fact, the prefixes are full, and again, this isn't what you want. So I'm just going to message sellers of these 3 pairs of boots. 1, 2, 3. And we will see if anyone answers. If they do, well, obviously, I'm going to give them my money in exchange for their items. All right. Potential pair of boots acquired. I say potential because the next step is slamming it. This could go well, or it could go poorly. Remember, the money prefix is energy shield, which you'll see immediately. Oh, wait, buying another pair of boots. You will very much need multiple pairs. In fact, I've probably slammed about 10 of these and I haven't hit an upgrade so far. Sometimes you get really lucky and hit what you want on the first try. Sometimes it takes a really long time. A good example of hitting what I wanted on the first try was this chess piece. And by that, I mean I bought 2 of them and I hit what I wanted on both of them. So it worked out really well and I got to sell the spare. That should sell for quite a bit of profit. The helmet also worked out because I didn't hit what I wanted immediately, but I got one that sold for about 170x. Pretty good there. Here we go. So now I have 2 pairs of boots. And if the energy shield moves, that's potentially good. And it did. It's probably not going to beat the pair I had, but this is absolutely a success. At worst, this will resell for more than I paid plus the slam. Now here, again, energy shield needs to move. 161. Oh, 30% increased. Probably not great, but also probably good enough that it's worth another exalt. And the other suffix is kind of trash. So now I'm going to head back to my hideout and finish out this item. It's important to finish stuff out as that increases the final sale value. So in the currency exchange, what do I have? Exalted orb. What do I want? Armor scraps. So that's going to be an extra 8 exalts spent. Or in this case, an extra 7 exalts spent because I mispriced and went fast. Don't do this. Actually pay attention to your ratios. Don't like record a YouTube video and go fast and not pay attention and then massively overpay. It's fine. The automatic thing saved me. I basically didn't overpay. And the other thing I will need is some Artificer's Orbs, because you can boost the energy shield with an Iron Rune. This time, I will try to pay slightly more attention. 7 to 1. Perfect. Okay. The Artificer's Orb, Artificer's Orb. Put these on. Like so. Damn it, I'm one short. No. Foiled again by the currency exchange. Sure. Just for the sake of demonstration, I suggest buying in larger bulk so you don't end up overpaying like I just did. Oh, there we go. So now, 250, 193. Again, not quite the 342. One way to potentially increase it would be to divine orbit, but divines are like 8 exalts per try, and the results are random. So for these boots, maybe not worth it. For these, I don't know. Depends. If the value is significantly higher, if it crossed that 200 ES threshold, that's when it would be worth it, assuming the rune doesn't already get it there, which it probably will. So, there we go. 223. And 277. So now, either I'd say, okay, these are enough of an upgrade. Let's just say I needed fire res really bad because I'm not capped and pretend I had rings on. Maybe that's enough of an upgrade. And yes, I'd have to fix the int, but again, don't worry about that. That's just a part of a gearing puzzle. Maybe it's worth using these, even if it's a bit of an energy shield loss. So, just going to take this off. So, 56, 59. Yeah, you lose about 300 ES going from 340 to 270. Again, maybe that's worth it because the extra 5% move speed and capping your fire res. Maybe it's not worth it. In which case, you take these and you price check them. And it's much easier to price check now because you don't need this complicated search. All you need is how much energy shield does it have? 270. Movement speed, 30. There's not going to be a ton of listings. Oh, look, it's literally only the super expensive pair. So set this to any. All right. 30x, 30x, 40. These are all worse, though, because mine has about 30% res. So this is about equivalent. So I'd say this is maybe 40, maybe 50. I think this is a little overpriced, and odds are no one's going to buy it. But 40, 50x, that's a pretty good return. And remember, the costs are relatively low. Even with all the armor scraps and stuff, we're looking at about 20x total for the 2 pairs of boots. Just remember, sometimes it doesn't work out. That's why my tab is littered with dead pairs of boots like this that didn't work out. Now, another thing you can do is directly search for upgrades via a live search. So maybe I want a new helmet. It needs to have at least 30% of 2 resistances. And I want it to be something that I can put on as is for 40 exalts or less. I would click like this, and then I would click activate live search. Now it's just going to start searching. You can go back to mapping, and what you'll be able to do is as soon as something comes in, you'll get a little notification. You'll see a red icon, you'll hear a ding, and you can go check and see if it's an upgrade or not. Keep in mind, sometimes you get really good deals this way. Other times you get junk. Maybe you get an item that you can slam, like, let's just see if there's anything here that has an open affix. Most of these don't. A lot of people have been really good about crafting their stuff, it looks like. Yep, none of these have an open affix at the moment. But maybe you get one. Also, holy, 219 life. That's insane. This helmet is huge. I'm honestly tempted to buy this just to resell it, because I suspect if I was a monk build, I would be so excited to put something like this on. That said, always buy to resell at your own risk. Sometimes you'll make money, sometimes you'll lose money. I won't really say it's a gamble. I'd say it's more of the better you know the market, the more likely you are to make money, and the less you know about the market, the more likely you are to lose money. But just leaving a live search up is another good way to get upgrades. That's why my ring slots are empty, because as I'm recording this video, I just have a live search up. It's how I got things like my belt. It's actually how I got this shield as well. This popped up. It didn't have the rune, so the energy shield was lower. Got a live search. I did divine it, which vastly increased the energy shield, because originally that was about a 63 roll, I believe, which was much, much lower. Increased it from like 260 to 300. Really, really good bonus. The helmet I crafted, I ended up slamming on it. The chest piece I crafted via slams. Current boots crafted, you guessed it, via slams. I believe I just bought this as is for full market price. I don't think I did anything special here. And I know I bought this amulet for full market price. It was a little bit expensive, but it's so good that I was like, nope, don't care. Buying it as is. I'll worry about it later. But then, after you do all that, you craft a bunch of items. You have a bunch of potential stuff just sitting in your stash. It's time to go back to mapping and wait for the sales to come in. People will start messaging you, and they will start buying items. And here's where I want to add another tip. 2 tips. First up, don't be a dick. If someone's blatantly trying to scam you, you have an item up for, let's just say 100 exalts, and they edit the price and ask for 1 exalt, okay, whatever, block them, report them, they deserve it. But if someone is just trying to negotiate with you, if they are making an offer, like in this situation, there is 0 benefit to you being a dick, and you have to remember, yeah, the item you have is expensive, but you made it, and you can make more. There's always going to be more items in the future, and the more exalted orbs you have to play around with, the better. So, I was offered 160x for a 200x item. And, 160, that's 40 lower. It's kind of a lot of a discount. So I said, what about 180? Their counter was meet in the middle 170. And usually when I get to that point, what I like to do is just ask for a little bit extra of a currency I already need. So I was qualitating my skills. I needed a few GCPs. I said, you know what, man? Toss a couple GCPs in, you have yourself a deal. That way, I get the sale, and even if it's not quite as much as I wanted in terms of exalted orbs, now I don't have to go buy GCPs, so it ends up working out and I can spend more time either mapping or purchasing and crafting more items. And so that's how I both geared my character and made a significant amount of profit in Path of Exile 2. In the future, there's a chance I'm going to make a video going into crafting in more depth and talking about some general rules of thumb, like what affixes are easy to slam and what affixes are hard to slam. From anecdotal evidence, it seems to be pretty easy to slam mana as a prefix on rings or belt. I don't know if this means the weighting is very high for that, or there simply aren't that many prefixes. On the other hand, I've noticed it's pretty tough to slam double energy shield on boots. I've done a lot of slams, and most of them hit things like life or mana. This is probably because there's a larger pool of prefixes available on boots, where you have hybrid, mana energy shield, mana life, etc. You have pure life, you have pure energy shield, you have pure mana. So if you're just going for one of those things, the odds aren't necessarily great. Whereas on, let's just say, a helmet that already has increased energy shield and flat energy shield, it's already really good. Trying to slam either a hybrid mod or life and then resell it to, say, a monk or another hybrid build is much, much easier. There's several different variations of hybrid mods, making it easy to slam and resell the item. Or, just get lucky and hit exactly what you want. So you could say, my strategy so far has been gambling. That is 100% correct to a point. But I also heard someone describe crafting in Path of Exile 2 as gambling with intelligence. And I really like that, because you aren't just blindly making decisions. Or I guess I should say, if you are blindly making those decisions, you shouldn't be expecting to succeed most of the time. Instead, what you're doing is taking your understanding of the game, the affixes available, and the market, and trying to come up with something that other people are interested in and willing to buy. That way, even if it's not an upgrade for you, it's going to be an upgrade for someone else. And if you do this time and time again, over multiple different iterations, all of a sudden, you end up with something that is far more valuable while making a lot of currency in the process. There is no way, when I started doing this the other day, that I would have been able to afford half the items on my character. I think after selling the invitation to fight the King in the Mists, maybe I would have been able to afford 2 to 3 items without the crafting. Just buying the market price is pretty darn expensive right now. I do suspect a lot of the prices are going to come down over time, both as more items are generated and as people better realize what is and isn't worth investing into. But on the whole, right now, I have been able to get way better gear than I would otherwise be able to afford, while also making the money to afford that gear in the future by crafting the way I have been. But this is the most important thing that you need to remember going into this. It is not as simple as just copy what I do. First up, you need to see what your character needs. Just because I have 2 resistances on my helmet does not mean that you need 2 resistances on your helmet. Maybe you have strength on a ring, so you want triple res on your belt. You need to think about your character as a whole and buy things accordingly. Second of all, markets are constantly in flux. If 100,000 people watch this video and all go, ooh, I'm going to go craft, and buy out all the market, it's going to be really hard to make a profit that way. In fact, you're probably going to lose money. And then the way things tend to go is 2 weeks later, everyone forgets about the video and they forget about the crafting and it becomes super profitable again. Then people remember, a new video gets made, and the cycle repeats. But such is the life of the economy in Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2. For now, I'm going to get back to fixing my character so that I can get back to mapping and record a build video on everything that I updated. If you want to see what my build was like before this, then do check the video up in the card and down below. And if you want to know more about crafting in Path of Exile 2, maybe leave some of your questions down below. I might answer them in the comments, or I might answer them in a future video. But for now, thanks again for watching to the end. I'm glad you've enjoyed. Remember to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.